custom F1 livery design. It's something that I do all the time. If you've been with me recently or you've been with me for years, you'll know that a part of my kind of brand, if you will, on this channel with my F1 gaming series, career mode series, my team, my driver, everything in between, a large part of the draw of what I can bring to the table is I know how to use Photoshop. And over the years, I've used that skill to personalize my career modes entirely, whether it's the more extreme scale of F1 My Driver back in the day, where every single car livery was different and custom made by yours truly, or now where I usually design my own My Team career mode livery for each new season that comes up, and then the others are downloaded from some amazing community members. And designing these liveries can take some time. They take also a bit of thinking about ideation of, what you want the livery to look like, what you're going for, coming up with the idea itself of, the brand you're going for, or, how you're going to redesign a livery from an old school F1 car onto the modern chassis. There's a lot of moving parts that actually goes into designing a cool livery. But for the most part, every time I show you guys a new livery that I've made for my team or in the past, I talk about it for maybe 1 minute in the video. I flash it up for a minute, and then we just get down to the driving and the racing. And from that point, some of you may have commented like, oh, great livery, but you've got on with the rest of the video, kind of just focused on the racing. I've never really focused any video on the actual designing of it. So for my latest livery mod that I made for my most recent My Team Career Mode episode, I recorded the entire thing to make a kind of time lapse of how it basically came to be. So for context, so anyone can understand it, in my current career mode, I am basically driving for a Lamborghini Formula 1 team, a fantasy Lamborghini Formula 1 team. From 2026, I basically made a story that Lamborghini was entering Formula 1. Now, I went on to win one world championship with Lamborghini in that 2026 season. And into 2027, I wanted to pay homage to the fact that basically I'd made Lamborghini the #1 Italian team, and going into the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, wanted to do something special to kind of note, like, oh, this is a special Grand Prix for us. Now, in terms of Lamborghini's actual history in Formula 1, they don't have a lot. They actually did used to supply some engines to some teams back in the day, and the only bit of noted success is one podium in the 1990 Japanese Grand Prix. Lamborghini was powering the LaRousse or LaRousse, or however the hell you want to pronounce it. I'm really bad with pronunciations, but they were powering the LaRousse team in Formula 1. So the car that they were powering that year in 1990, the chassis name was a Lola LC90. And driven by Guri Suzuki that year at the Japanese Grand Prix, he got that car onto the podium, 3rd place. So therefore, Lamborghini, as an engine supplier, was able to get their one and only podium in Formula 1. So I wanted to pay homage to that fact, because in the game, I had brought my own success to this fantastical, Lamborghini F1 team. This was the standard livery that I was running that season for Lamborghini, based on Lamborghini's current livery in WEC, in World Endurance Championship. You can kind of see the similarities and the crossover between that design and this F1 design. Cool. But we've now got to somehow blend them together. So we've got my standard livery for the season there in Electric Racing Green, and it was a case of, well, first of all, changing the base color to blue, because that was the majority color, and then trying to figure out how we can work in the yellow. And just before we get on with the rest of the video, I wanted to pause it here and just actually note that I need to give a massive shout out to Jay Buren, who's an amazing member of the PC modding community for F1. He's the one who makes this 3D model for Photoshop. I'll leave a link below down to his socials. He needs to be, have all the credit for actually, allowing someone like me and other modders to actually make liveries like this, because he makes the 3D mesh that actually allows you to properly see what the livery is going to look like before you convert it into a flat file and inject it into the F1 game. So massive thank you to him. For years and years, he's been doing God's work with this, and it's just for the love of the designing, and in the same way that everyone else makes liveries for free on Race Department, it's for the love of the craft and for the love of F1. It's why I put in that much effort into making the liveries, even though really it's not going to affect the videos too much. It's because I just enjoy doing it. But yeah, anyway, let's get back with the video. Now, obviously, it's because the old chassis is quite a different shape. There's a lot more, well, there's a lot less actually of the main chassis body, and it's actually a lot of nose nose and a lot of engine cover, whereas a modern chassis has a big engine cover, a big chassis bit, and quite a large nose. So it's about trying to complement the yellow across the top of the chassis and onto the engine cover. So I kind of decided to kind of break it off in the middle bit where the cockpit is, and then go from there. But you can see right now, I've actually kept the black on the top of the chassis. That is from the WEC design that Lamborghini actually run. And I thought initially I was going to keep that black and thought, okay, maybe I'll keep that part and blend it together so it's kind of like the, you know, the throwback livery, but blended into my current design. I then went on, I continued with that vibe, so the black is still there, and right now what I'm doing is I'm removing all the bits of black that shouldn't be there now, because we need to show that blue, because the actual 1990 livery was very bare bones. A lot of blue was showing on the wings, on the rear wing, on the front wing, just a subtle little, you know, red line. The red now we've got onto the engine cover now as well. This was now a bit of a faff point where I was trying to figure out how much yellow I incorporate onto the engine cover, so I was constantly going back and forth onto the 3D model, trying to see what works best. And this is basically just trial and error of cutting and stitching and just constantly switching back and kind of just seeing with the naked eye what works. You can see also the chevrons there in black. That's from my original livery. So I kept those on, and they're overlaid on top of the color. So it's a nice blend of modern design and the retro color. Now comes what I thought was a bit of a gopping green bit to the design, but it is what it is. That is what the Lola LC90 looked like. So now is a case of trying to figure out how do I incorporate this into the engine cover, because the engine cover for the modern F1 car is a lot smaller than the retro car. It's massive, that engine cover. So it was kind of tricky figuring out how to rotate the green in a good way. And then this point you're seeing now is me finally getting rid of all the black on the nose and the top of the chassis, and I committed to going, no, if we're going to do this livery, we're going to do it fully yellow on the top, and we have to try and completely mimic it to what the retro one was like. So that includes the, in my opinion, quite ugly bit of the nose where it's like a, you know, green triangle on the front, but it actually ended up working really well, and it obviously was paying homage to the original livery so much more. So I'm glad in the end I came to my senses of getting the black off and, you know, leaning more towards what the retro car looked like. And you can see now it's all come together. I'm changing a few sponsor colors to red to try and match hits of red on the old livery, basically making sure that certain sponsor in white that work there. I was looking at the number, but then I remembered obviously I have to do that with the number decal. But in the end, it looked like this. So the time lapse here was a bit quick. I looking back at it now, in my opinion, to explain to you guys what I was doing. So I think the next time I try this, if you guys actually like this video concept, I'll slow down the time lapse. But that was a little insight into how much little kind of fiddly bits work into, you know, getting that green stripe on the engine cover, getting the red and the yellow kind of lined up and kind of, you know, working in a way where you can clearly see the inspiration of the retro livery. But because it's on a modern chassis, there is a little bit of stretching needing to be done. In the end, in my opinion, I think it came out really, really nice. I was actually really happy with it, and I think I did a really good job of paying it forward to that old livery. And obviously for me, a big part of why I love doing career mode and, you know, putting this much effort into doing extra liveries and stuff is because I love the story behind it. You know, the story I was able to create of basically, you know, we've become the #1 Italian team in Formula 1, you know, we're reigning world champions, let's celebrate Lamborghini's real life success, you know, pretending like we're a real F1 team. If they were really an F1, you feel like they would celebrate this, something like this, like they would celebrate, you know, their one podium they got in 1990. So a very, very different video today, I will admit, but I just kind of felt in my gut an itch that I wanted to make this video for YouTube, because I did a reel on Instagram and a TikTok version of this video where it was only like a minute long and showing it off, and it actually went down really well on Instagram, and it seemed like lots of people really enjoyed the behind the scenes. So I thought maybe you guys here on YouTube would also enjoy the behind the scenes, and also this video might be interesting to people who aren't even interested in behind the scenes, but they're interested in livery design and just seeing that kind of process maybe, and just seeing something like this, which is, you know, taking a retro F1 livery basically and just putting it on a modern chassis. So I actually posed the question to you guys for maybe a future video of giving me ideas of what to design. You know, it doesn't have to be linked to my career mode series. We could maybe just make this its own thing where I do designs based off what you guys want to maybe see. So let me know in the comments below if there's any retro iconic livery you want me to put onto a modern, you know, F1 chassis basically, and like I said, I'll slow down the time lapse maybe next time to really show you the kind of little ins and outs of little bits I'm doing as I go along. But yeah, designing and using Photoshop and being creative behind the camera, the stuff you don't see, is a massive part of what I do with YouTube and creating my career mode videos. But it's not, like I said, a part that I've ever really, you know, shared with you guys too much, and I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like doing it finally. I thought it might be kind of cool. So yeah, let me know if you agree with that and you did think it was quite cool. If you did, then hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly full-on content, and I'll catch you guys around. Goodbye.